Hi everybody, welcome to the Putnam Club at Gillette Stadium. This is a very special edition of KSPORTS Sunday. I'm Jimmy Young and I'm joined by my three young sportscasters, Tom Kelly, Joe Braverman, and TJ Horgan. And they are really happy to be here. How are you guys doing? Everything all right?
Oh, everything's great. This is awesome.
You good?
Couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, so we're at Gillette Stadium, but it's a very special event here called The Game with the Greats. It's run by the New England Patriots Alumni Group, and this place is packed. I mean, there's a couple of thousand people here.
Yeah, it is packed, absolutely.
And they're getting autographs from some of the alumni. We hope to be talking with them a little bit later on. The program, or all through this program, will be live right up until 1 o'clock, so that we'll be able to watch the game at 1 o'clock because, you know, this is about football, right?
That's what we got to do.
So this is what's going to happen in about 10 to 15 years, guys.
Yep.
Okay? You're going to come back here.
Yep.
You're going to have your own shows.
Right, of course.
And then you'll have Brady and Gronkowski and all those guys that are playing now doing this kind of a thing.
Yeah.
All right? That's all that's going to be happening, you know? And if I live to see the day, I'm going to be pretty happy anyway. So this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
most definitely.
how have you talked to any of the guys? I know I introduced you to a few of the guys.
Yeah.
Any surprises? Anybody you had heard of before? Of course, you've got the Total Patriots book here.
I do. To be perfectly honest with you, I haven't heard of any of these people.
That's okay.
I'm really impressed with the scope of players who's here. You got guys. You introduced us to Larry Eisenhauer, played in the 60s. Then there are guys who played in the 90s, early 2000s. Everybody's here.
Wide berth, yeah.
That's right. It is a wide berth. And you know what? I think that's what being part of a family like a football team is all about.
Exactly.
You see a lot of people walking around with throwback jerseys with Pat Patriot, which I think is kind of funny seeing, the Brady name with Pat Patriot. It's always kind of weird.
The Pat Patriot logo to the current logo.
Really?
Yeah. It just looks better. I'm just
sorry,
that's
Joe.
just me.
You're gonna have to redo your wardrobe.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome, buddy.
You like it better. That's interesting.
I do.
So do you know the history of it at all?
Well, it's a Patriot.
That boy. Good job, Tom.
Yeah, I'm wicked smart.
Yeah, yes you are. Yes you are. So it's Pat Patriot, and it's a cartoon by a guy by the name of Phil Bissell. He was with I think it was the Boston Herald American at the time, and he just drew it. I think they had a contest, and Billy Sullivan, who was the owner of the Patriots, picked that, and of course it lived right through the first Super Bowl appearance for the Patriots back in the day.
Yeah.
When I was there at the 40-yard line watching the Bears absolutely destroy them. But you know what?
We're not going to talk about that today.
No, I'm not going to talk about that game. But because that was one of the greatest football teams of all time, that Chicago Bears team. I will give them props. Jim McMahon, coached by Mike Ditka. Just a great, great team. But the Patriots beat Miami for the AFC Championship. And for someone who grew up watching the Dolphins beat the Patriots every single time.
Must have been awesome.
Similar to how the Canadians dominated the Bruins. Sorry, Tom.
And still kind of do.
And still kind of do. You know how much you hate the Montreal Canadiens?
Yes.
That's how much I hated the Miami Dolphins.
And look where we are now in the new era.
What's that?
Not a fan of Don Shula?
Not a fan. Excuse me.
And a steakhouse? How about a steakhouse?
I like the steakhouse, actually. I've been there. I'll say this about Don Shula. I respect his record.
Okay.
I don't respect that the only thing that he regrets in life when people ask him about his career, the one thing I regret is when we lost to those Patriots when that guy Mark Henderson came out with his snowplow and cleared a spot so that John Smith could kick that only field goal in a blizzard at Foxboro back in the day. And it's still one of the great stories of Patriots history.
Most people would probably say similar things. AFC East fans, not of the Patriots, would say similar things about Belichick. They respect him for his record.
And they don't like him.
Yeah.
And they also have that snowball and that foolish tuck roll that the Patriots got away with. Exactly. But as far as I'm concerned, that made up for
Still won the Super Bowl.
That's right. And it made up for the horrible Ben Dreith call for roughing the passer against Ray Hamilton back in the 70s on a team that I think was probably the best Patriots team.
I'm going to nod like
in
I
the
pretend
70s.
I know what you're talking about.
I could probably go through them all. I mean, Andre Tippett was on that team.
Right, obviously.
Steve Kiner, a wacky linebacker, was on that. Yeah, you have no idea. You can read it. You can read it in this book. Show the book, because this is, I did text Bob. I told him we're going to use his book.
Bob Hilberg's
Right.
Total Patriots.
No, it's Hilberg. It's Bob Hilberg. And he actually met Joe at a Jimmy and Jimmy show.
TB12.
That's right, at the Knobscott Cafe on Monday nights. Yep. That's where we stream live on a regular basis. Great hamburgers, $3.99 hamburgers. Very good, right? Well worth it, and I get the lobster roll, which I think is huge and unbelievable, and a burger. Yeah, basically when it's free, I'll eat anything at that point. So I know it's not about me. This has never been about me, but it's about you guys.
Yep.
And I'm going to go out and see if I can interrupt a couple of alums and see if they'll sneak over for 5 minutes. It may be difficult because I believe they sign until 12:15.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have you guys
I think we could talk for 10 minutes.
You could probably talk for more than 10 minutes. And hey, there you go. There's a Drew Bledsoe jersey walking around. I like that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I'll let you guys take over, talk a little bit about the Patriots Bills. You have your little format. I'm going to see if I can get some alums for you to chat with. Because needless to say, these guys have a lot of stories. Some they can even share with you. All right, I'll be back.
Some they can't.
All right. Take over, TJ.
Now that Dad's gone, we can eat. Now that Dad's gone, we can eat the junk food.
Bye, Dad.
All right, so Patriots taking on the Bills today in Buffalo. So some notable Patriots who are out, the center Brian Stork, rookie third-round pick, and also Dante Hightower, the outside linebacker. How do you think the Patriots inactive will affect them today in Buffalo?
Well, I think the biggest one out there is probably Brian Stork, because we saw last week, prime time in Cincinnati, the offensive line finally found their groove.
That was impressive.
They finally gelled, and Brady got time. Now, now basically they have to reshift their line. They're probably going to put Wendell at center and have Soldier probably switch. So it's probably the worst time for Stork to get injured.
It could be worse. Right. It could be worse because Wendell obviously has started before. He started for a lot of last year, so a lot of credit goes to him. He's a very capable lineman. However, the Bills' defensive front is very formidable. Marcel Darius, and Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams, the two defensive tackles for the Bills, probably the best combination of football right now. Those guys are just gonna absolutely rush the center of the offensive line. Patriots are gonna have to stop that. We'll see what Wendell can do.
For guys like Soldier or Fulmer to really stop the Bills' defensive line. It's going to be tough for them to create space for guys like Ridley to run through.
Right, and Soldier actually was benched for part of, I believe it was 2 games ago, was benched for poor performance. And so Soldier was benched for poor performance. So we're going to have to see, if Soldier can keep it together, and if he does keep it together, how can the middle of the offensive line do? And the key is going to be to run it to the outsides, in my opinion, because you have Darius and Williams who are going to clog up the middle of that.
And another key would be to keep Brady on his feet. Don't let him get brought down, because we know Brady. Everyone's heard of
prior to the Cincinnati game.
It will be. And to add on, he had an ankle injury. They say it's not that big of a deal. The Patriots like to put him on the injury report just for fun.
Yeah.
But he does have a sore ankle. This is a legit injury. So if he gets knocked down, that ankle could get hurt even more, and there could be the risk of Tom Brady being pulled from the game if it hurts so much. So the offensive line protection is absolutely huge.
And I want to go back to the Pats O-line for a second. I hear all the time Felger and Naz, they crap on Nate Solder. What do you guys think of him?
I mean, he's young, and if Belichick didn't think he was perfectly capable of laying down a block, he would be out. They're gonna deal with Solder. Obviously, they had a bit invested in him being one of the draft picks, so I think that Solder's gonna stick around for a while. They could do a lot worse than Nate Solder right now.
Yeah, and to think with Soldier, he's been around with the Patriots for so long. It's very surprising to see him struggle because he knows the offense. He knows, what Brady likes, the kind of protection he gets. So it's kind of weird to see him struggle, but one of these games, he's going to have a bounce-back game, and then Felger and Maz possibly will change their opinion about him.
Now a little bit onto the Patriots' defense. No Patriot has hit the quarterback, never mind sacks, has even hit the quarterback more than 5 times, and that's Chandler Jones. four times. Second is Dante Hightower, who is out. So Kyle Orton, obviously in the pocket, passed the ball 43 times last game for the Bills. Do you guys see that number going up? I mean, how are the Patriots going to do against Orton?
Well, let's just look at the Lions' defensive line. Jonathan Sue, Nick Fairley. Last week they couldn't even touch Orton.
Yeah.
And to think with what the Patriots have now with Vince Wilfork, Chandler Jones, it's going to be very difficult. The two defensive line in Jones and Minkovic, they're impressive players, but how can they get to Orton if they haven't gotten anyone at all? So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
Today's going to be the highest stakes game for the Patriots defensive line. If they can put pressure on Kyle Orton, we got a fan.
All right.
If they can put some pressure on Kyle Orton, I think that might be the deciding factor today, and that would also prove the Patriots defensive line to be more than capable.
I'm going to just help you guys out a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Yep. All right. This PA is so high, I want you to hold that mic.
For sure,
you
for
guys
sure.
Share that one. All right.
Sounds good.
Talk right into it, all right.
All right, and one part of the passing game obviously is the receivers. Their receivers are young and can run down the field. Mike Williams, Robert Woods, and last but not least, the first-round pick, Sammy Watkins. Darrelle Revis will probably be on Sammy Watkins. Do you guys think that's the right decision? How do you see Watkins doing today?
Joe, is it? Okay. Well, I read today, Curran said that Sammy Watkins said in an interview that he found out that Darrelle Revis was going to be on him. So will that change the...
He found out.
Yeah, he found out.
It's
Anyone
probably
can say
implied.
that,
Yeah.
But it just makes me wonder. So is Belichick going to put him on someone else to kind of throw him off?
I think the best thing for the team would just be to have Revis on Watkins. You don't really have another guy with that playmaking ability.
Well, I mean, look what Darrelle Revis did against Cincinnati. He shut down A.J. Green. He shut him down so much that A.J. Green was dropping balls when he was open. So that's very telling to see that Revis has finally hit his stride with New England. He's finally found the system with Darrelle Revis, I think, should have a good game, but he could easily get blown away by Sammy Watkins.
Watkins is not as big of a deal as people make him out to be. I mean, if Revis can shut down A.J. Green, then there's not much discussion around Watkins. I think this is Revis's matchup to lose. So if Revis does mess up, then that'll prove Watkins to be a superior receiver. But until he does mess up a few times, I think Revis is dominant here. On to the Bills' running game. We haven't talked about this yet, but they obviously have one of the best running back tandems in the NFL. Fred Jackson, oldest active running back, and C.J. Spiller, not the oldest active running back, but he is fast, and he has also plagued my fantasy team for the past few years. We'll get to that later. Bills' run game. Do you see them being more efficient? And do you see them, since Revis is on Watkins, do you see them passing the ball less?
I see them running the ball because, like you said, Revis is going to be put on Watkins.
Yeah.
And Fred Jackson, the 33-year-old who plays like he's a 19-year-old in college.
Yeah. You're
crazy.
right.
It's going to be a tough test for the defensive line to stop him, and I really think he's going to have a good game because the Pats defensive line, I'm a little because they couldn't stop the Dolphins, they couldn't stop the Raiders, so how are they going to stop the Bills?
So you're basically saying that he's like the Benjamin Button of the NFL. The older he gets, the better he gets.
I guess that'll be his nickname
The
now.
1-2 punch of Jackson and Spiller is very impressive. We're all going to doubt that. We're not going to question that at all. Spiller, he's had a breakout year last year. He's done.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go that far.
Well,
he broke out a few years ago. Nobody's really questioning his talent. He's been in a bit of a drought lately.
Yeah, but the 1-2 punch of Jackson and Spiller will be very telling to that defensive line because let's look at who they played. Week 1, Miami, they had to face Sean Moreno and Lamar Miller. They ran all over him. The Minnesota Vikings.
Mainly Sean. He's sort of like the Patriots' kryptonite, though.
Pretty much. And with the Minnesota Vikings, all they really had was Matt Isiata because, the day before, Peterson is gone, and we'll probably never see him again.
Yeah, Asiata caught an early touchdown. That's about all he did, though.
Yeah, and then with the Oakland Raiders, we all know they're not very good, but Maurice Jones-Drew and Darren McFadden are pretty good running backs, and if they couldn't stop him, how are they going to stop this power punch of Spiller and Jackson? It's going to be very, very difficult.
Right. I think we'll see a lot more Fred Jackson here, because if you look at the Miami Dolphins running backs, it's almost really similar to the Bills running backs, where you have Fred Jackson and Noshawn Moreno being similar players, and obviously Lamar Miller and CJ Spiller being similar players. Both guys have breakout ability, both extremely faster than their other part.
Do you see Spiller having more carries, though, than Jackson?
This season, the Bills' offense is vehemently sticking to their guns with Spiller, and he's only averaging 3.5 yards per carry this year. So, Spiller will get more carries because they don't want to give up on him, but Fred Jackson is the more efficient running back there, 4.7 yards per carry. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna go on to a little bit more of a broader discussion about the Patriots. Oh, sorry, a point I forgot to mention. On Advanced Football Analytics, they have the offensive lines ranked as win percentage added. The Buffalo Bills offensive line is the worst offensive line in terms of win percentage added. So if the Patriots cannot get past the Bills line here, I think we're going to have some problems. All right. Tom Brady hasn't been hasn't been playing to the Tom Brady standards recently, and by that I mean he has his lowest passer rating of his career so far. Tom Brady with an 85.5 passer rating, as I mentioned, lowest he's ever had it, aside from when he, tore his ACL. Yeah. But what does he need to do to fix that, and is it all his fault?
Well, throw to someone else besides Edelman. Besides for last week, who was he really throwing it to? He wasn't throwing to LaFell, not Amendola, and he was trying to force it to Gronkowski. So
Tim Wright breakout game.
Oh, yeah, Tim Wright had a good game last week against Cincinnati in prime time. But please, Brady, don't force it to Gronk. Trust your receivers.
Mm-hmm. And it's gonna be very telling, because over the past 3 weeks we've seen how he's gone to Edelman and Gronk over the past 2 weeks. Then, when weeks came by, he started going to LaFell more. He started opening Tim Wright into the game. Yeah. Amendola was starting to come out a little bit. So with Brady, we all know he's on the decline. He's 37 years old. The time is ticking on his career, and to see him, with us Patriots fan, we're totally in shock that he's not putting out Tom Brady numbers that he did in 2007 with the undefeated team. But Brady right now, he's more on a team effort. It's not all about the offense. It's almost like going back to the Super Bowl years when they won 3 out of the last 4 years, how they were relied more on their defense than their offense. This is kind of how they are this year, and I think the biggest thing for Brady today is the biggest thing over the past 6 weeks is to get protection. Protection is the biggest thing for Brady. We know when he doesn't get protection, he does not put up the numbers that we all want.
This team's not really looking like the Super Bowl teams, if we're going to put it frankly. The defense does not look up to that par. So on that note, Brady is 9th highest in passing attempts, but only 18th highest in passing yards. Before the season, Brady said, I'm not going to retire, after a big year. I'm going to retire when I suck. If Brady finishes the year around 18th in passing yards, worst passer rating he's ever had, we seen a retirement?
Well, he's obviously not going to retire because he's under contract. But, I can see maybe the Patriots, because, how they trade Mankins earlier this year or how they traded Seymour. They like trading, aging guys. They might trade Brady if it makes sense. So they might. Hey, why did they draft Garoppolo?
All right,
because he's the future. And the thing with
could be a year, could be 2 years, could be
Tom,
3 years.
I think you're saying they might trade Brady for a player other than a quarterback. I couldn't see that happen.
Okay,
I can't see them trading Brady, period. And I think what Brady was trying to say when he said you only play until you suck, he was talking about a team effort. He doesn't really care about his individual stats. He wants another Super Bowl. We all know that. And when the Patriots...
everyone wants another Super Bowl.
When the Patriots stop winning the AFC East and they do not get into the playoffs and go to the Super Bowl or at least the AFC Championship game, that's when Brady will say, I'm done. I don't think I can do this. So I don't see Brady going for another 3 to 4 years.
And I mean, we're in Gillette right now, so forgive me if I'm playing a little too much to the saying, don't crap where you eat, but I think the Patriots management has failed to provide Brady with the tools to be successful this
look
year.
what he did in the Super Bowl.
The only year where they really loaded up and got
was Randy Moss,
was
yeah.
07, Randy Moss.
And look what they did that year. I mean, I think it'd be foolish if they didn't try to do that again, one last run.
And to think Brady would not be here today. He wouldn't be talking about one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Look at the weapons that he had when we went back to the Super Bowl days. He had Troy Brown, Jermaine Wiggins. He basically had literally no weapons and turned them into superstars. And if Brady can do that with LaFell and with Amendola, if he can bring them back to what they were, it might be very shocking.
I think right now, I'm kind of tired of the argument that Brady makes these receivers superstars. I think that used to be true, but if you look at it right now, Danny Amendola, when he was healthy, which was about 5 minutes with the Rams, Danny Amendola was a superstar. So right now it looks like we have a guest coming on.
It's Jim Bowman, who actually his claim to fame is that he recovered a great punt once. Ask him about it.
Jim Bowman, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
That's my pleasure. Anything for your esteemed producer here, Mr. Jimmy Young. Goodness gracious, you guys learning anything from him?
Yeah,
No,
a little bit. I
nothing
guess
at all.
occasionally, yeah. So Jimmy wanted to mention a punt that you recovered. You want to give us a little sort of play-by-play of that punt?
Well, since as I look around this table, none of you guys were even alive when this little event happened here, but it was during the 1986 playoffs, my rookie year in the NFL, which was the season of 1985, but it was against at that point, the Los Angeles Raiders in the Coliseum. Had two fumble recoveries that day. The first led to our first touchdown of the day. That was on a punt. Battled for the fumble and end of those piles. When anything goes and you're grabbing, you're scratching eyes out and stuff like that. I unfortunately didn't have my eyes scratched out, but I ended up with the fumble recovery that led to our first touchdown of the day. Nice. And then the second one happened in the second half. It was on a kickoff, which running down a kickoff coverage, the late great Mosi Tutupu ended up stripping the ball, and the ball was bouncing around on the field, and it was a race between myself and Cedric Jones, another wide receiver at the team. He tapped the ball and landed in the end zone, and it just happened to bounce the right way, and then I tripped, and then I fell, and lo and behold, I fell on top of the ball. And at that point, that fumble recovery ended up becoming the winning touchdown of the game. We ended up beating the Raiders 27-20, I think was the final score, in the AFC semifinal game. So to have that happen to me as a rookie in the NFL, it's a great, great day. And then we ended up going on the next week and beating the Miami Dolphins in the AFC Championship game, and of course that led us to the Super Bowl of 1986.
Would you say that'd be the highlight of your career?
Tripping and falling on a ball, would be the highlight of my career, I guess, if you look at it that way. In regards to having that becoming the winning touchdown of the game. So yes, definitely.
As a football player, when you see that ball on the ground, is there anything more important in that moment?
No, I've seen the highlights and the tapes, and you just focus on what you see, and that was my job, was basically special teams all year long. So you run down, you see the ball on the ground, and it's your job to jump on it. And fortunately for me, had a little burst of speed right at the very end, and focused in on it, and ended up. I joke around tripping and falling, but literally that's what it took, was just to come up with that ball in the end zone and see the officials go up with their both hands in the air, and you knew it was yours. And even at that point, I was fighting to keep it away from my own teammates. So it was all good.
As a player, who is your favorite player to play with, and who is your favorite player to play against?
Well, I grew up in the state of Michigan, so I was a Detroit Lions fan growing up. Okay. One of my favorite players to watch was an old running back named Billy Sims.
Oh, yeah.
great running back, and because I was a running back in high school, so I followed the Detroit Lions quite a bit, and ended up graduating high school and playing 4 years of high school football without ever losing a high school football game. My graduating class went 36-0 through 4 years of high school football. It was. And we had a theme song from Queen, another one, Bites the Dust. So, and that was about the same time when Billy Sims was playing for the Lions. So I followed Billy Sims. He was kind of one of the guys I watched a lot. And, of course, when I got out here, when I first actually went to college.
1 more minute, then I want to bump you.
Yeah, I'm getting bumped already. So we're going to have the story.
He does that to a lot of guys.
But no, honestly, once I got out here, I played behind Roland James. He was a strong safety in front of me. And, just the utmost respect for him, who's here in attendance today. He's just one of those competitors that you couldn't beat out, and he was just always there, always in front of you, but respected him utmost for his ability as a strong safety.
Yeah, what does it mean for you today to be at this event and to see some of the greatest Patriots of all time? What does it mean to you?
Well, they've had this event now for 5, 6, 7 years. I've lost count at this point, but all these old guys that just to be associated with them, in amongst them, it's a great honor. So we'll continue to have this event, hopefully well into the future, and hopefully these guys continue to come, and we enjoy it. We've been doing this every year that they've had it. So good to see you guys. Good luck to you. And
thank you for joining us.
Before your producer really takes me and yanks me out of here, I wish you guys nothing but the best. All right?
Thank
Jim
you
Bowen,
very
thank you
much.
very much. We appreciate you coming on. All right, so great discussion there with Jim Bowen, Patriots defensive back and special teams player. Yeah, absolutely. Right now, I believe we're going to have one of the Patriots' greats, Larry Wildman Eisenhauer.
The Wild Man.
Come on. The Wild Man was defensive end for the Patriots. Yep. 1961, 1969. And especially, it's going to be interesting to see what he has to say. Because
the differences in the game then.
Right, because we're in the era now. Obviously, he played in the 60s. We're in the era now of protecting the players as much as possible. In the 60s, player safety wasn't as advanced as it is today. So before he comes on, I guess we're gonna go a little bit we'll move on to NFL matchups today. We have Cowboys versus the Seahawks. What do you guys think of that game? And what's the outcome gonna be?
Tom's not really the football guy. When I look at the Cowboys and Seahawks, when you're looking at the records, this is a great matchup. But I just think Seattle is more of a team, like team play. We're talking about the defending Super Bowl champions against the breakout Cowboys. And the Cowboys, I'm not going to lie, they are a great team. Tony Romo has been excellent at the QB position. Their defense, even with losing Claiborne, has been terrific. I just see the Seahawks, they should have no problems with the Cowboys. That's the way I see it.
I didn't think the Cowboys were going to be good coming into the year.
Everyone expected
I got to be
them
honest.
last.
Sean Lee, Morris Claiborne out, shaky offensive line. You don't know what's going to happen there. You got, Des Bryant last year, who was known for just causing problems, whining about how he didn't get the ball. But this year they're coming out. DeMarco Murray leads the NFL in rushing yards by over 100 rushing yards. He almost has 700 rushing yards at this point. Absolutely insane. The matchup here is going to be to see how DeMarco Murray does against the Seahawks run defense.
Here comes the Wild Man.
So here comes the Wild Man, Larry Eisenhauer. Larry, thank you for coming on.
You might not say thank you after I get off.
All right.
What's going on, guys?
Glad to be here, obviously. So, Larry, you played from 1961 to 1969. In terms of the game changing from where you were to what it is now, more focusing on the whole player safety initiative that's been taken. What do you see in that? What do you support? What are you against?
I didn't realize the game has changed. That's a big surprise to me. I didn't know. Player safety, we didn't even know what that was. We never discussed that. And actually, it was our intention that when we played, I was a defensive player, defensive end, and my job was to, what's the answer to that question as a defensive end?
Tackle.
Hit the quarterback.
Get the quarterback, the famous word, sack the quarterback. So And that was my favorite thing to do. That was the most enjoyable thing I ever did in my life, playing football. And but back in the days when we played, we used to try to take the quarterbacks out of games, and that's true. You were allowed to hit the quarterback any place, including above his shoulders, and hit him in the head. And that's what I kind of used to like to do, and I perfected a knockout punch, a knockout shot rather, using my shoulder and elbow, and over my career I put 18 quarterbacks out of games. So that was my trademark.
So is that where you got the Wild Man nickname, or did that come from something else?
Well, I was a little bit out of control. Mostly when I played, I was a guy to play with a lot of enthusiasm, energy, always screaming and yelling, whatever, because it helped me get up for the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when we used to be introduced as a defensive team, and typically you would have the opponent's offensive team ready to be introduced alongside you.
That Buffalo Bills Stadium.
Just before I used to be introduced, I used to run into the goalpost. I used to get about 10 yards away and run into it as hard as I could 2 or 3 times. And the player I was playing over on the opposing team would always just shake his head and said, "Oh boy, here he is again. What are we going to do?" But, things like that, being a little bit emotional, that was where I picked up that name. And I was also a wild man off the field, too. But we can't go into that. This is a family show.
Family event today.
All right, now, and you definitely had a great career being a defensive end from 61, 69, 45 and a half sacks. That's unreal. What was your fondest memory on or off the field during your career?
It's very difficult to pick out any one thing because so many things happen with all the games and all the years that I played. The most significant thing for me was, graduating from Boston College and not being a heralded player. I had changed positions my senior year. I asked to move from defensive end, offensive end to defensive tackle and offensive tackle. And to get drafted by the Patriots and be able to play for the Patriots, what I really remember the most was playing against all the great stars that college All-Americans and things like that as I played there in the league, and to be able to say, wow, I can play with these guys. You know what I mean? That gave me a lot of confidence, a lot of satisfaction. So if I had to pick out one thing, just to be able to achieve and to be able to play along with the most biggest stars of the day.
Well, man, I got a question for you. When you were playing, was there anyone in the league or anyone who you would play who you just could not stand? Like anyone?
No. When I played, I couldn't stand anybody.
Oh.
So there was not just one player. But that was part of my game as being a wild man. That, whoever I was playing against or over or whatever the play was, I would just play 100%, go as hard as I could. And I would always get myself up for the game, build myself up emotionally, so I wouldn't want to really destroy people when I was out there. So it's lucky I was as little as I was, because maybe I would have destroyed more. But actually when I did play, I was 6'5", 255, which back in those days was a pretty good-sized guy. So.
Did you ever have a player who would get really amped up for playing, like more so than the other games, and really gave you a challenge on the field?
Well, they all were good players, and it was the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks that was my job to put pressure on them, because if you get to the quarterback, you change the offense of the other team. But there were a lot of great quarterbacks that we played against, like Bob Greasy and Joe Namath, and guys that you guys wouldn't remember, but Johnny Hadel and Lenny Dawson, of course, you know him. As a matter of fact, you guys are budding Lenny Dawson. He used to do the HBO network, so you'll be.
That would be a dream.
I might see you guys up there someday,
That would be a dream. Yeah, absolutely.
But yes, players like that you would always do. That played for good teams. It'd make you play a little bit harder. So.
Was there any player was there any teammate during your career that you really enjoyed playing with, that you always had a good time and really bonded with?
Well, when I played, and even today, there's really 2 teams out there. You have an offense and you have a defense. And you stick together. The defense sticks together, and the offense sticks together. So when you go out or whatever you do, you're always going to go with, I'm going to go with a defensive player, and you do stick together. So we were very close. And I was very lucky because in the years that I played with the Patriots, we had a really great defensive line. All four of us were all pro for at least 4 years each. We had Bob D, Jimmy Hunt, Houston Antwine, and then we had Nick Bonacani was our middle linebacker. And we had a great all-star named Ronnie Hall, who was a defensive back who had 27 interceptions, who was a terrific player also. So those guys that I play with on defense, they were my guys that I were close to. And I was a kind of an unruly roommate because every year I would have a different roommate. They couldn't stand it.
Today with the Patriots, we talked about this earlier. Their number one in terms of quarterback hits is Chandler Jones. He has 5 quarterback hits this season, which isn't a lot in the scope of the entire NFL so far this year. What challenges do you see facing the Patriots this year?
23 and 25.
Well, the Patriots, to me, you get talking about Chandler Jones. That's one question, and I'll answer that first. He has 5 sacks, and by the way, and he was injured, I think, the last game, and he's on track to get probably 10 sacks a season, which will put him up with the better players, so to be sure. And he's a good force, as you know. Over the last 5 or 6 years, we haven't had a guy that has consistent pressure from the defensive line that as Chandler Jones has done. So I think he's got a great career ahead of him. And I think he stays healthy, he'll be one of the better ends around here. As far as where are the Patriots today? I can't answer that question because I don't know if they have an identity yet. Because we've seen them at their best, as in last week, and we've seen them at their worst when they played Kansas City. So who are they? And I think today will be an answer to that question because Buffalo, obviously, are tied for first place. They're doing very well. I'm a little disappointed that Kyle Orton's playing today because he certainly is a proven quarterback and will do a much better job than Emmanuel, who had played before him, who was still a rookie and learning. So I think having Orton in there is going to make Buffalo even a tougher team than they had before. They got some great players, and they got a good offense and defense. So if the Patriots can come out of this with a win, I think it will go a lot along with saying where they're going to be the rest of the year.
Larry, we're all obviously familiar with the controversy surrounding the Washington Redskins. I just wanted to get your thoughts. Do you think they should change their name or the Washington Redskins?
Just a quick stat about that. 10% of NFL fans find the name Redskins.
10%?
Yeah. Sports Illustrated recently did a poll.
I got 750,000 there.
I don't believe it. I'll just say this. I played in the 60s. I don't believe in political correctness at all.
Okay.
So I don't believe in any type of name change or anything. I don't think it's to insult anybody, to put them down. I remember reading a thing out online the other day about just about half the teams that play sports, you can say, offend somebody with their name. So, to me it's a little silly and a little ridiculous, but where is it going to end? I don't know. So I hope they don't change their name. And I listened the other day when I watched the Redskins play, and they still call them the Redskins, and I hope they continue to do that.
Shifting gears a little bit.
I got 22-5 now, looking for 25. 22-5, looking for 25. 22-5 once. Still need 25, 22-5 twice.
Recent
Looking for
issues
2,500.
NFL,
Once,
different
twice.
policies. In terms
Sold right there for 22-5.
Do I have to teach my
Thank you.
technique to you? You got to point it at the
Who is
person.
this guy?
This is TJ Horgan.
Oh, no, who are you?
Oh, no.
I know who T.J. Horgan is. Who's that guy? Anyway,
Items here.
In terms that's Jimmy Young. He helps out a little bit occasionally.
But anyway, go ahead. Oh, back to it's typical. Like I talk about political correctness. Roger Goodell is a very effective commissioner, and what is the right way to handle anything?
Right.
Everybody looks post fact.
Yeah.
And there's always a complaint. He didn't do this, or that guy didn't do this, or this woman didn't do that. right, correct. Nobody can get everything perfect. It's going to please everybody. So I think he's a very effective commissioner. I hope this doesn't blacken his record or anything like that.
Right.
And we all learn as we move along, and of course he's learning too as he goes along too. And you got to remember, he doesn't make these decisions by himself. He has, I think, as a committee of 2 or 3 of the owners that he consults with before he does or say anything. So, with that being said, I don't think all the blame or whatever you want to say, derogatory comments about Roger Goodell, that he should accept himself.
Larry, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate your time.
Thank you
My
very
pleasure.
much.
I wish you guys all the best in your careers, and like I said earlier, I look forward to seeing you on national television.
All right.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wild Man.
All
All right, so a great discussion there with Larry.
All right.
Larry Wildman Eisenhauer. I gotta say, when I was asking him that first question, he grabbed the mic from me. No way I was going back in for that mic again until the end of that.
Hey, when you're nicknamed the Wild Man, it's best to just back off.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're going to move on a little bit to other Boston sports right now. Boston Bruins. We have our resident Bruins expert. He's getting pumped up as we speak.
You just take the mic. He's gonna
3 games in, 1 and 2. Tom Kelly, talk about the Bruins.
Well, I went to the game last night, and it was a complete disaster. They were skating around in circles. I mean, when they got into the offensive zone, they got one shot, and then they were done. They were kept to the outside by the Washington Capitals. That is unacceptable. And in the locker room, a word that was being tossed around was embarrassed. They should be embarrassed after what happened last night and what has happened over the last 3 games.
Wait, including the win? What happened? What went wrong in the win?
Well, in the win, they really didn't really play that well. They just playing the Flyers, and the Flyers are horrible.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
So, and the winning goal was very lucky. It barely squeaked by Chris Mason. So.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about the Capitals, you got Alexander Ovechkin, who's
They gave
one
him
of the greatest to play right now.
Wow. One of the greatest offensive players, not the greatest two-way players, but he's a great goal scorer, and they gave him way too much time and space. On, I think it was the first Capital goal was on the power play. They let him just tee one up wide open. What is this? This is the NHL.
Would you say the 4 goals were because of Tuukka or because of the defense?
I'd say defense, because you can't leave Ovechkin wide open to tee one up like that. On the second goal, he was wide open in front. The only one I would really put on Tuukka was the third goal, the power play goal by Mike Green. He got close to 5-hole on that one too, because I'm sorry.
It was just really an off night, and the Bruins really need to. They gotta find a way.
And here's the
all right.
Welcome another guest, Ed Reynolds.
Mr. Reynolds,
Hello.
thank you for coming on. We appreciate
Hello,
it.
sir.
All right, so Ed, we've been just moving over to the Patriots pages in the Total Patriots book. We're gonna see Ed, Dirty, and Captain. Can you tell us how you got those nicknames?
Well, I was in the military the same time I played when I was here, and so my rank was a captain. I got promoted on the field, or actually in a preseason game. So that they always called me captain from my soldiering, and then Dirty was because my first year I used to hit people a lot of times on the other teams, and so they ended up giving me the nickname Dirty.
So we talked to Wild Man Larry Eisenhauer a little about this too, but the way the game's quote protecting players has changed, the game's safety. Obviously, you were dirty. That's what they called you at least. Where do you see that going?
Well, it's done for a reason because there's so much money. You know, players are paid a tremendous amount of money, and you can't let somebody just take shots at your quarterback. So the quarterback deserves being protected as much as possible, because you think if you lose your starting quarterback, I mean, what happens if the Patriots lose Tom Brady?
We don't want to think about that.
No. So it's like that with anybody that has a quarterback. It's only of that quality. So everything evolves, and hopefully it's for the best and gets better. I mean, generations are different. Yeah.
Ed, I asked Wildman this also. I just wanted to get your opinion on the Washington Redskins name controversy.
All right, I have 6 to you.
Well,
6 to you.
I find it kind of interesting because for all this time that's been going on, I mean, it didn't really pick up steam but the last couple of years. And largely because it picks up steam when they're losing. You know, you think about the Joe Gibbs years where they won 3 Super Bowls on 3 different quarterbacks, and they were vastly successful for 10 years, and it was no such thing as everybody talking about the Redskins. I don't think the term was, you know, it's Redskins peanuts.
Yeah.
Have you ever had them? We used to have them in the South all the time called Redskin peanuts. They have little skins on them. So I don't think the name was ever used for a derogatory term against the Native Americans. And if you ever, of all the derogatory things you've heard, different names from different ethnic groups, have you ever heard anybody use a redskin as a dirty term against a Native American?
Got to be honest, never heard that one on the schoolyard before at all. Yeah.
Ed Reynolds, you had a great career from '83 to '91, 119 regular season games. What would you say is one of your greatest memories during your career with the Patriots?
One of the greatest memories is a couple times we had some great games. We had to go play San Francisco right after the earthquake, and we had to move the game to Stanford Stadium, and we had to go play, and we lost right at the end. But it was just getting to play against them and had a great game. Playing against Dan Marino and Jim Kelly. I mean, we had one of the 1983 draft was the greatest draft class in the history of the NFL. So I was to be a part of that. I mean, I wasn't drafted. I was a free agent, but that's amazing. I was a free agent, played 11 years in that same draft. So it tells you how that draft was.
Going on the players you were drafted with and even other players, was there a particular player that you bonded with on the field, off the field, you really enjoyed playing with?
Well, Johnny Rembert was one of my best friends here. We came in here together. We played against each other in college. So we lived together. So he was one of we were just still to this day very close. And we played inside linebacker together. And he actually helped, him and Steve Nelson actually taught me the position. Because I came here as an outside. In my second year, I moved to inside.
So when you made that transition, what went into making that transition, and was it difficult?
It wasn't that difficult because, number one, you had 2 excellent teachers in Johnny and Nelly. And then we had a great coach in Rod Russ. And then you just put the work in. And that's all it takes.
So let me get the stats real quick. I asked this to Larry also. Commissioner Goodell, 37% of fans say Commissioner Goodell should be fired. What is your opinion on how Goodell handled everything and where you see his future?
Well, I don't see any reason why Roger Goodell should leave. I think he's done a great job for the sport. I think players and organizations have benefited tremendously with the TV contracts. Yep. I think from the situation, it's unfortunate how it is unwoven, but I would say for sure that the commissioner did not see any part of that tape.
Right.
I think that will come out at the end report. And I also believe that because of the emphasis that has been brought to this very sensitive topic, but a topic that needs to be talked about in domestic violence, right, is actually going to help in the overall big picture things.
Yeah, that certainly could be the case. And you mentioned earlier that player safety in terms of injuries and concussions, you weren't necessarily against the increasing regulations for player safety, things like that. Obviously, football is rising in popularity all the time. Sport is almost intoxicating the atmosphere. How do you see Pop Warner football and all that working with player safety to sort of get kids to play football, but in a safe way?
Well, the thing that they've done is pretty impressive right now that the league offers is the Heads Up program with USA Football. Yeah. But outside of that, as the younger you are, your body's in a position where it doesn't. If you ever go watch Pop Warner and the kids grab each other and they kind of fall all over them, they're so flexible. It's very difficult for them to get hurt. You don't see kids getting seriously injured. I mean, mainly from trying to carry the equipment. But as you get older, and the way that the game is getting faster with the cleats you wear now, with the stuff you play on, the field turf. So what they're doing with the Heads Up program is to protect everybody. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's a violent sport with a lot of collisions, and there's going to always be some kind of pain involved in it. But you just keep teaching and training and teaching and training, and through that process, you become safer.
All right, and we talked about how the NFL has changed over the past few years, especially today. Is there anyone in the NFL right now that you really enjoy watching play the game?
Well, there's a number of people. I mean, you can't help but love watching Tom Brady quarterback. You think about it, he's the problem I think right now is not having a true deep receiver for him. But just watching how he works with what he has, it's amazing. He goes out at him, watching Peyton Manning play, watching some of the defensive guys like the Willis kid out at San Francisco, watching some of the defensive. Vince Wolf still can't be moved. What is it, 14 years now? And his technique is flawless in how he plays, and that's impressive, So I like watching different parts of the game now. You like watching the strategy of it all. You like watching certain coaches go against each other, and the matchups that go accordingly.
In terms of technique, as you mentioned, have you seen technique evolve or change at all from when you played and to when you're watching the game now at your position?
Well, I think we were a little bit technically sounder, I think, overall, because you had to be, because a lot of the things that we did in the 3-4, we had the two-gap to guard. So a lot of the run responsibilities and underneath pass responsibilities were taken care of by the linebacker core. So and we always helped the corners in a different way. Now corners don't backpedal like they used to, which I think has hurt the evolution of corner play, to be honest. And then linebackers, everybody's kind of in a chase mode, because if you notice, linebackers have gotten shorter and smaller and lighter. And defensive ends, back when I played, the linebackers were 6'4", 240, 245, 250. So the changes are because they're adapting. The defense is forced to adapt to the way the offenses are ran. But it's nothing truly new. It's nothing truly new, because the slot position you see that the young guys that what's his name made popular here, but he's now in Denver, right? Wes Walker.
Right.
But you're trying to do it. You're trying to find somebody to make that slot, that position, which is what's the kid?
Edelman?
No,
Edelman.
Edelman. Well, all that originated started out of Miami when Marino, when he had Nat Moore in that position, and then he had the two outside receivers, who were his great receivers, but that's where that slot position was developed by Nat Moore. And so everybody just expanded off of that.
That's pretty interesting. Ed, thank you very much for coming on.
So
we appreciate your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Continued success, young man.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
I stole your photo.
Another great talk there. Ed Reynolds, it's interesting to see, different perspective. Larry Eisenhower's perspective, obviously, that the safety initiative has gone way too far. And Ed was a little more cautious with the safety, mentioned that player safety should be one of the top priorities. What do you guys think of that?
Obviously they're from two different generations, right?
Yeah.
So one generation is going to think different from look at us. We're Gen Z.
Right, yeah. They started
we think differently
20
than
years
Gen
apart.
Y. Yeah. So it's perfectly normal for different generations to think different ways.
Yeah. And what I think about the safety is that, obviously safety is very important, and everyone wants to do their best to make sure the game is as safe as it can. But then there comes a time when you maybe go a little too far, how you may be becoming overprotective. It's like, when you start growing up. It's like when you start growing up and your parents are still protecting you. Don't do this, don't do that. It's like you don't want that to happen. As we have another guest come on in,
Garen Veris, thank you for coming on.
My
Get the
pleasure.
page up.
We've been getting everyone's profile card up in the Total Patriots book. Give us a little insight as to your highlights. Right there, Garen Veris, defensive lineman, 85 to 91. So you played around the same time as Ed Reynolds did. We just talked to Ed. Were there some players at that time you enjoyed playing with or enjoyed playing against? Because obviously D-line, you're so close to the offensive line.
On our team, or you mean around the league?
Right, either team. So, player you bonded with, player you enjoyed playing against, too.
There's so many great guys on the team. The 7 years I was with the Patriots, and we got along so well. I was on the '85 team that went to the Super Bowl, and Ed Reynolds was, a linebacker that we had to work closely with, being a defensive lineman, because they make the calls and we basically go where they tell us. And but we developed a great relationship amongst a lot of guys, offense and defense, and it was just a great time to be with the Patriots.
Great. All right, and you definitely had a great career, 39.5 sacks, winning the Ed Block Courage Award. What did winning that award do for you, not only as a player, but as a person in general?
Well, I don't know if you know what the Ed Block Courage Award is. It's basically if you had an injury the year before and you came back from the injury, overcoming obstacles and coming back. So each team each year has a candidate that they send to Baltimore, and Ed Block was a famous trainer and somebody well respected in the training profession of the NFL. Right. And I'm not sure the history of how it became named after him, but each year, each team sends a representative to Baltimore. We get a great award, which is a helmet from your team. It's like silver-coated, and one of my cherished awards that I received, because it does represent, it's voted on by your teammates, and everybody from the league goes and has a celebration at the end of the year, and it's just a lot of fun, and just if you come back from the injury, I mean, that's a big thing in the NFL. Injuries are always such a big thing.
Right. And just to clarify, what injury did you have that you came back from?
I had blown out my knee in the previous year against Green Bay. We actually had three starters on defense go down in that one particular game. Myself, Andre Tippett, and Ronnie Lippett all went down with season-ending injuries in that game. So we all three missed a year. But that was my injury, was a blown knee. Andre Tippett tore a pectoral muscle from his chest, and Ronnie Lippett tore his Achilles heel. So.
That's awful. Those three injuries, especially in one game. Yeah. So let's shift gears a little bit to the positive side. What was your most memorable day as a Patriot?
Oh, I mean, the happiest I think was probably when we beat the Miami Dolphins in the 1985 AFC Championship game, and that sent us to the Super Bowl, and we became the first New England Patriot football team to make it to the Super Bowl. And probably that day, AFC Championship against the Dolphins was probably the highlight.
I hate to interrupt this, but Garen, you're going to get bumped by a cheerleader, if that's okay. I think the boys will really appreciate you coming out here, but you understand.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you so much for your
Garen,
time.
thank you for your time.
Enjoy. Come on up, both of you. You're both here. You might as well come on now.
What an upgrade we have.
Hello.
We have a couple.
Hi.
Maddie. Take a seat, Maddie.
TJ, what a
Teej, we're in the middle of them.
What a gentleman.
So Hannah and Maddie, introduce yourselves, and of course Pat the Patriot. Pat, introduce yourselves a little bit. How long have you been cheerleaders? What do you do with the Pat's cheerleaders now?
All right, I'm Hannah. This is my second year on the team, and we just go around all New England. We do promotional appearances, we cheer at the games, and it's a lot of fun.
Yep, my name's Maddie, and this is my rookie season.
Oh, cool. So, rookie so far, what's your favorite thing about being on the team?
My favorite thing about being on the team is definitely cheering during the games.
As Pat points and says, what about me? How about you?
I guess being on Pat Patriot's fun too.
There we go. I can tell he's a ladies' man. All right, favorite thing about being on the team?
My favorite thing about being on the team, there's so many different aspects, but I guess all the practices with all the girls. It's really, really fun. We do all kinds of stuff. We're all really crazy, so it's definitely a good time, all of us together, but we definitely know how to, get our work done.
All right, now, how did you guys first get introduced into Patriots cheerleading? How did you get the connection? To
cheerleading in general also.
Well, it's an open audition every year, so a lot of us have a lot of cheering and dance experience, and anybody can go to the auditions, and it's about a 6-week process. And there's lots of rounds. There's preliminaries, finals, and then boot camp. And then after boot camp, the team is chosen. So that's pretty much the process that we went through this year.
Yep, I've been cheering my whole life. I did gymnastics before this, and then I started cheering in 8th grade, and now I've been cheering ever since.
Now, many people don't know this. It sort of flies under the radar, but cheering, I believe, does have the most injuries per year out of any sport. How do you both make sure that, no one's getting concussions, anything like that, and cheering? And do you have any, experience where you've been injured in cheering?
Well, it's definitely a lot of hard work, but I think we've been training so hard every day, every week. So our experience is really under our belt, and we make sure that we're really safe in what we do. And when it comes to injuries that I've had, I think I've had maybe just a couple sprained ankles here and there, but I think I did get a concussion once. But other than that, I've been pretty safe, and fingers crossed, knock on wood, that nothing else happens.
Yeah, I've been hurt more than that. I broke my arm, I broke my knee, and I've torn 75% of ligaments in both of my ankles. So yeah, cheerleading's definitely a rough sport, but being on the Patriots, we don't really tumble that much, and so that kind of takes a lot of the risk out of it. But we always stretch, we stay healthy.
Do you guys have any memorable moments during games while you were cheering?
I guess you could say the last game that we just did with the Bengals, we wore Devin Stills' jersey in honor of his daughter who has cancer right now, and that was definitely a really good moment. It just shows that the NFL is just one amazing organization, and no matter what, we can come together and really support whoever we have that needs it.
Yeah, that was definitely the most memorable moment I've ever had cheering at a football game.
Yeah, it was incredible to be a part of.
Great, and we're going to wrap up, but before we do, Pat, give us your favorite touchdown dance, celebration, something like that. There we go. Pat, the shimmy. There it is. All right, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thanks, Pat.
This was fun.
All right.
So you guys have fun today?
Oh, yeah. Blast.
Did you learn anything about mic technique, Tom?
Yes.
It's okay.
Still a couple things.
Like that.
You guys
He
did
likes to criticize.
I know that you guys did a great job. Tell me, of all the people you talked to, what was one of the most interesting things you learned today? Now, you guys get to think about it. I'm going to put him right on the spot. What was one of the most interesting things that you found out today?
I'd have to say the contrasting views of players from different generations.
Oh, yeah.
From wild man Larry Eisenhauer saying, what is player safety, to Ed Reynolds being a little more cautious, saying that player safety obviously needs to be considered a little bit more now.
I would just say, all of them. All of them had interesting points. It's great to hear, how the NFL is today. It's different from what our generation thinks, but what they think about it, what Wildman and Ed think about it, it's truly, it really gets you. It gives you a different look on how it is.
It's all about perspective, right?
Right.
And I really like their takes on Ed Reynolds and Wildman's take on the Redskins situation.
The Washington football team.
Yes, the Americans.
I like the Americans. I like the Washington Americans.
But the Blackhawks.
Okay, let's not go there. We can talk about that later.
Wildman said, I hope they don't because I think he's a traditionalist.
Yep.
And while Ed Reynolds said he was a little more kind of, I'm trying to think of a better word.
Cautious?
Cautious. That's better, but he said, I don't think it's disparaging because, did he say there was food at Washington named after? Yeah. So they're named after peanuts, not Native Americans.
That team started in Boston. They were the Boston Redskins. Just a little historical perspective, just to prove to you once again, guys, that
little
I
bit of
actually
trivia.
did know what I was talking about a long time ago.
Were you around for the Boston Braves?
No. My dad was, though. My dad was a big fan, and he's still around, which is the best part. Hey, Tom Kelly, Joe Braverman, TJ, I'm so happy that you guys got to experience this.
Such a blast.
That's what I live for now. So for Jamie Statzlin, who put this thing all together again, great job, Jamie. The Kellys, who are our biggest fans. And by the way, guys, you set a record for continuous viewing on the Jimmy's channel.
Yes.
Okay? I won't tell you what 11. All right, I'll tell you 11. Soon enough, we'll get to a dozen. That'll be tomorrow night at the Knobscott Cafe, maybe. The game's about to start. That'll do it live from Gillette Stadium. For all my guys here, I'm Jimmy Young. We'll see you next time on KSPORTS Sunday.